Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your day to paint with me and Coleman Events. For those of you that chose a canvas, please disregard this next instruction. But for those that chose a tote bag, you want to make sure that you have a flat surface to paint on. So you want to go ahead and flip out the little zipper pouch that is inside along with any handles. And you want to tuck in a piece of cardboard or a hard surface so that the paint doesn't bleed through to the next side on the back. What we're going to do first is begin with a acrylic marker with a fine tip point, the tiny end. I'm choosing a black. And I'm going to go ahead and outline the elephant just so we don't lose the shape with the paint. And you have an outline that we provided. And just to get an idea where those little tiny lines are that we're going to be following for the shape. This will make your elephant stand out. And I'm going pretty fast here, but feel free to pause the video if you need to catch up. Just want to make sure we don't lose our little elephant guy here in our little bag area. I'm going to go ahead and also do the outline of his ear. A reference to where his eye is. And mouth. His tusk. And that trunk. So now that we've got all of our lines kind of saved to bring this elephant to life, I'm going to come in. I think our palette today is have some red, maroon color, a white, and a black to represent your sorority. Feel free to choose more colors if you want, but I thought we would go ahead with the sorority colors today. So I'm going to come in with some black paint with a tiny brush. So what I'm going to do is use this tiny brush because we're very tiny space. I'm going to dab it in the water just a little bit to get the bristles wet. Dab it on my paper towel to soak up some of the water. And come in with some black paint. Oh, with the black paint, I'm going to come in and kind of put in some shadowing on the elephant. So I kind of want to look at all the areas that might have shadowing. So underneath the belly is an area that's going to have shadowing. And you want to make it darker around this rounded portion. And then kind of come up with a drier brush with hardly any paint to give it that type of effect. And you want to repeat that process all around anything that might have a shadow. So there's another shadow area where this back leg is behind the stomach. So that's going to get a little bit of shadow. And I don't have as much paint on my brush now. But you see it's still giving that shadow effect. I'm going to reload my brush. Every time I reload my brush, I want to dip it in the water just so that the paint and water is a good consistency. It helps the paint spread easier. Here behind the neck area is another area that I'm going to put some shadow in. And a little bit under the ear, kind of around this area. just to show that the ear is laying on the body. And I'm also going to put some shadow in around the edge of this foot down here to show that this area is a curve area. And it's not just a flat, undimensional object. Kind of build that roundness by doing that. And a little shadowing coming up around his little hiney and on his back. We're going to repeat that on this leg. Just ever so much, just a little shadowing here. And already you see how that is bringing that elephant to a little bit of a three-dimensional elephant, not just two-dimensional flat on the surface. Right down at this foot, I'm going to add in a little bit more shadow. Reload my brush. Where his trunk is laying on his head, or her head, it's a little shadow. Underneath the tusk, just a little tiny shadow. Anywhere that you think that light would kind of be different. Right here above the tusk, I'm going to put in this shadow just to give this trunk a little bit of a shape. Kind of follow that curve right around with the shape of the trunk. And as you see it, the black paint is not that dark for most of the shadowing, and that is what you want, because you're going to come in with the red and you're going to kind of work with the black that's already there and see how that builds up the color of the elephant. All right, so we are at an area now that I think we've shaded in our elephant pretty well. I'm going to rinse my brush. I think I'm going to still use the little brush. We'll see how it goes. And come in with some red. I'll load my brush with yellow. To rinse the brush, you want to make sure all the bristles touch the bottom of the cup. Twist it around, and then you won't see any paint on the brush. And then dab the excess water off on a paper towel. Now we're going to come in with the red that I've loaded on. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to put some red in. Just in some areas. And I think red goes. I'm going to make the whole elephant red. And as you can see, I'm going right up in to the areas where I put the shadow in. And it's kind of blending in with that color and giving it a little depth. I'm going to reload my brush, getting some water. The water on the tote bags, a lot of water with your paint on the tote bags will help spread the paint better because it's a bumpier surface. And the water will soak into the fabric better with the paint. If you find that you put too much water, just put more paint on your brush. We're just putting down some red coloring on our elephant. And I'm just moving my brush around the surface area. I'm not really sticking with any type of brush stroke because you want to kind of wiggle that brush like back and forth really quick to get in all those little nooks and crannies that the tote bag has. If you're painting on this canvas tote, definitely want to do that. But if you're just painting on a regular canvas board, it's a bit smoother, so you won't have to do it as much. I'm gonna go around this eye. I'm not really gonna paint in the eye area yet. Gonna leave it a little lighter color there. Kind of looks a little cool. I'm reloading my brush. I'm coming back in. Filling in the trunk with the red paint all the way up to the top. Just wiggle your brush back and forth, back and forth. That's a way to get in all of those little tiny crevices. Wiggle, wiggle. There we go. So we're coming along pretty good. Reloading my brush. I'm going to dip it in some water and then the paint. Start down here. And in my elephant red. More red. And this is just the first layer of our painting. Just blocking in some of the coloring. A lot of paintings that you see today have many layers. That's pretty interesting to see the process and actually do the process together here. Reloading my brush, coming back in, some color, wiggle, wiggle with my paintbrush. Little circles work. Just remember to keep that brush pretty wet when working with the fabric. That way the paint soaks in a pretty good amount. Pretty easy to get worked around when there's water. Okay. Color in this ear. It's a tiny little space. So we'll see. Just kind of go in this line here. Normally I say don't worry about staying in the lines, but there's a tiny little ear here. We don't want to lose this line shape for his ear. I'm gonna try and stay in there. And paint is very forgiving. So if you do make a mistake, don't worry. When it dries, you can just paint over it again. Just gonna wiggle the brush back and forth. See how the paint is getting into all of those little areas. Go down here on this neck part, right over that shadow area. And you can see that the red painted over the black still gives that shadow look. That's part of layering, the layering process. A little more brush, I'm gonna do with some red paint here. And going back over where I think I see some little white spots. Sometimes leaving the little white spots can be an added area of interest or texture in art. So feel free to leave some spots not fully painted if that's what you like. This is your creation. I'm just here to kind of guide you along. If you feel if something speaks to you, like you want to use a different color, you want your elephant to be white, anything at all, you want to start on your background first, feel free to do that. Or you can paint along with me. All right. We're almost done painting this elephant red. So we're about halfway done. And definitely stop the video. Put me on pause if you need to catch up or if you need to just stretch your legs. I don't know about you, but when I'm painting, I find that I don't think about a whole lot else. I don't think about what I have to do tomorrow or what I'm going to wear tomorrow or what bills are due. I'm just at the canvas, concentrating on what lines I'm not going to mess up or what colors I'm going to put where, concentrating my thoughts on that. And that allows us to give our right side of our brain time to come out and play. We're a left brain society, and that is the part of our brain that's responsible for telling us to eat, and breathe, and sleep, and all those things that we definitely need. But it's also very important to take some time out for the left side of your brain. Sorry, your right side of your brain. Come out and play. And that's what you're doing now. Eating, not worrying. Great. We have our elephant almost all the way red. Shading in the paint in those little nooks and crannies. Going right over the shadowed area. You see how the red paint layered there? You still see the shadow as it goes over top of the black. If for some reason you can't see your shadow, don't panic. You can go back and put that back in. One more foot to go. And then we have painted the elephant red, not roses, but the elephant red. Great. Have the elephant all red. Give yourself a pat on the back. You did it. Have a red elephant. Okay. So left this area up here light by the eyes. Just gonna come in here and color it in just a little. Just a little bit more color added there. Not too much. Just a little bit. All right. So now I want to come in and I want to add some highlights to this little elephant. And to do that, the red paint is still wet. I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to go with this guy for a little bit. I'm going to wet him, dab him out, wet him with the water, dab him out on my paper towel, and pick up just the littlest amount of white paint on this brush. And I'm going to apply that directly onto the red paint on the elephant. And I'm going to do that in areas that are closest to me, where the stomach is coming out. That might be a little rounded. So the closest part of the rounded belly that pops out is going to get the white paint. And do you see how that kind of is bringing that color a little bit lighter? Not like a pink. But it's also giving the elephant a little bit of form. I'm going to repeat that process a couple other areas. So I did it for the belly and the leg. I'm going to do it in this back area where his little knee is. And of course, this round hind leg. It's going to get some color. I hope you can see just that slight variation of color gives him or her that added shape. I'm going to take a little bit of white and do that with the trunk as well, because you definitely want the trunk to look a little rounded. Don't forget, if your brush gets a little too dry, dab it in the water, dab it on your paper towel, and get some more white. A little teeny tiny bit of white I got there. See that? I'm just going to go in on this trunk and just dab it in, and then shimmy my brush back and forth. And the beauty of this is if you think it's too light, you can add some more red. So don't worry if, oh no, I put too much white on. You can just paint over it with red until you get the right shade that you're looking for. It's going to look a little pink, but that's what we want, because we want to show that this object isn't flat. So I gave it his trunk or her trunk a little bit of a highlight, we call it. I'm also going to very gently go in around the eye and the tusk area with some white. Just a little dab will do you. I'm going to dot it around here, around the cheek. Just kind of shimmy that part in. And you can see how it's given that part of the face a little shape. Also gonna take what's on my brush and go right in above the eye with that same color. back and forth real quick just to get all of that paint off of my bristles into the fibers of the bag. And I think I'm going to try that same method of the white and the red. I'm going to mix this time a little white and red together because I want the ear to kind of be a different red, but I still want to kind of be red. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of white, just that much, and just a little tip, just a little bit like this of the red. Kind of mix it together. We don't need that much paint because we're only doing that ear. Kind of get like a light pink. And I'm going to do that ear. Just light pink real quick. Just shade it on in. Shimmy it back and forth. I'm going to add a little water because it's a little stiff. You can see that the paint is flowing more smoothly when I add that water. All right. And I'm going to take a little bit of red, just a little bit on my tip of my brush, and I'm going to go around the edges just to kind of make it stand out a little bit, that it's not a 3D object. I mean, a 2D object, it's 3D, so that the ear has some shape. Because not very often do we look at anything in the world and it's all one color. A lot of different colors depending on how the light is hitting it. All right. I'm also going to come in with more red here just to kind of firm up where the ear starts and ends. Kind of blend that in. I think the top of the ear, I'm going to give a little bit of white too. Just a little bit, what's left over on my brush from the ear, the inside of the ear. It's going to go around the ear. Okay, so we have our elephant looking pretty good. And so now we get to have some fun with the background. I'm going to leave the tusk white. You can color it in if you like, but I think I'm going to opt to leave the color of the canvas pop in through to show the tusk. Kind of pull it, the art together, kind of complete the look with the canvas bag. So now I think I'm going to go and rinse my brush. I'm going to get all of the white and all of the red out, smash in my bristles on the bottom of the cup, wiggle in it, and you can bring it out and you'll see that no paint is left, and dab it out onto your paper towel. I want to load my brush with some black paint. I think I want to do the black around the elephant to make the elephant pop. I think that's going to be the best way to attain that contrast that we're looking for. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a really dense black all around the elephant, and I'm going to kind of fade it out, see how that goes. Be careful around the triangle. You don't want to lose that shape. I'm not going to paint black on the triangle here, but if you want to totally paint over the triangle, you certainly can. Get some more paint on my brush. Put some water with it. That way it'll go on nicer. It's easier to spread around. Get right up, right next to that elephant. And we see how the outline that we created is kind of blending in with the background, but you still see the elephant because of that contrasting red and black. I'm gonna fill in some areas with my brush. Now for the part where we're gonna fade the area out, we're gonna do what's called a dry brush technique. And how to do that is to kind of dry your brush out. That's why they call it a dry brush technique. And with very, very little paint on the brush, we're gonna fade the color out. In some areas. See how that goes. We may like it, we may not. And at this point, if you want to try your own thing, I definitely encourage that too. You can do it with any color. So what I'm going to do is I have the kind of area all out, lined in the black. I'm going to put a little black in this little circle here. Or not a circle, a little oval here. Where his trunk is. Okay, so I think I have the elephant pretty well defined. And I'm just gonna kind of wiggle my brush back and forth and kind of not press down super hard. And you'll see that that area starts to fill in with a really, really light color of black, and it's gonna gradually get lighter and lighter. I'm gonna gradually let the pressure up off of the brush. There's hardly any paint or water on my brush right now, and that's why they call it a dry brushing technique. This works really well on fabrics. Let's see, I'm gonna scoop this paint out slowly, slowly, going out and not pressing as hard so that a little bit of the black paint is left on the canvas. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Slowly, slowly, going less pressure, and then see how the faded effect you obtain that. I'm going to continue that out past the triangle, that coloring. To kind of bring the triangle to life, give that an area. Now out here, let's have some fun out this way. I'm going to do a technique that's called scumbling. And that's basically where you put your brush every which way you can possibly imagine. And it kind of just gives you a cool way to fill in space without spending a lot of time or thought. And you see, I haven't even reloaded my brush yet. It still has all that paint in there, which is creating this cool gray background. You might really have to start smushing your bristles down into the canvas to get that paint off. Right now, we're running out of paint, but don't give up. It's there. Just gotta work with it. All there in your brush. Still going. Okay, I think we've exhausted the black paint, but we have a pretty good foundation for our background. And see how we made that triangle pop out? We're gonna make it pop out even more. I'm gonna switch brushes. I'm gonna give that poor little brush a rest. Just gave him a workout. And I'm gonna pick up the little tiny brush. And I think I'm going to outline the triangle in red. I'm gonna switch back to the red, little tiny brush, load it with some paint, and a lot of water because we want the paint to really flow. Let's start with our brush and see how this goes. We may switch to a marker, but if you got a steady hand, you might be able to pull this off. I'll show you how to do it with a marker on the other side, and you can figure out what you like best. Because a lot of times when you're painting, that's the whole part, is figuring out stuff. What works, what doesn't. So when you're doing a painting, you're developing your own painting practice. It's kind of how we as painters figure stuff out for ourselves. So I got this side with paintbrush. It's okay. It's not like a great line, but it's there. I'm going to switch to the red marker. We'll do the other side. I take the little marker and you'll see the tiny tip. And we'll define that triangle with a red on this side, which is a lot easier for control. And we can thicken up the line really good and make that pop. Go right over some of that black or gray that we put there. When your hand is going in a direction it's used to go in. Flowing with the line. All right. I'm going to go over my paintbrush line because I think it looks better with the marker. See, we figured out something together. Marker is better look for this line here. All right. I think get everything. I might have to press a little hard to get this marker to go onto the canvas, but it's working pretty good. All right, so we have this bag here. I want to try out a technique. I'm going to use a white marker. See how this works. I'm going to take the fat end of the white marker and I'm going to see if we can do like some fun little designs. I like spirals, and we can repeat this triangle shape. See how it works. If we don't like it, then we can just paint over it. Let's see. I'm just going to do some triangles here. You don't have to do triangles. You could do any shape that you'd like. Triangles are pretty easy. I'm just going to see how that will come through. Nice. I put the white triangles in. You notice that they're kind of popping out over that black area. You could write your name. You could do other just lines just to give it like some added movement in your artwork. Just kind of want to scratch that in real good. Because what we're going to do next is have a little fun and experiment with some paint. And I think I'm going to put down here ST, abbreviated for established. I'm doing that in the white paint for now. Let's see if this works. Established, so EST, I think your sorority was established in 1913. a little homework, y'all. So, it's been around. It's awesome. I'm gonna put 1913 down here. I'm really working that marker in. And you'll see why later. So 1913. Yeah, while I have this white marker, I'm going to switch out to the tiny point, and I'm going to give that trunk a little highlight. And the ear a little highlight. The belly a little highlight. You would do a heart there. I'm going to draw on his little toes. Just little suggestions of toes. You don't have to actually go all in, commit to a toe. And anywhere else you want to add white. Maybe you want to put some lines on the trunk. If you play around with your marker and you decide you don't like something that you did, you can paint right over it with the white. I mean the red. Great. We have our elephant. And what we're going to do now is do a wash. So wash is basically where we take a color. I'm going to switch back to this brush here, our little big brush. And we add in a lot of water with just a little bit of the paint to make almost like a really sheer version of the color that we're using. You can see that there's barely any paint in that puddle, but there's a lot of water continuously coming back to that. We have a pretty good consistency there. You want to be able to make sure you can still see your plate through the paint. And then I come in here and I'm going to go over these triangles. I'm going to see how it looks. They should still pop through, and they do. Now, anything that you wrote in with a white will do this. So if you want to pause the video here and be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I want to do other things in the white marker and come back. Definitely, I encourage that. You can still see that in the background. You can do this with any color. You just wanted to make it more colorful, you could. Now now that I have the color kind of sheer, I'm gonna come in with some red with no sheer and bring that color in again. Just to kind of add some sort of design for our bag. And this is just to give you an idea of what you can do with your bag. I'm gonna dip my brush in the water, not in the paint, and just come back in with that wash again. And dip my brush in the water. I still have that wash going on. I'm gonna make some more wash. Just add a lot of water to that red. Come back in over this way. You see those white lines? They're popping through. this little suggestion of design element. You can fade the wash up into the canvas so it doesn't have a solid border by just doing that dry brush technique that we did earlier if you'd like. So you can see how on this side it's a little bit more faded. And on the other side it has a hard stop. You can play around with that kind of technique. This area is where you really want to get a lot of water with a little bit of color and really help bring your design to life. And you're going to cover a lot of area really fast by doing the wash with the paint. I'm going to come down here to where we wrote our letters. I know you might not have seen it too good on the camera, but now they're going to pop up with the red paint. So we're going to add a sheer coat of red paint, and they kind of start to come in. See that there? Hope you can see that. And I'm going to play around with the water here. I'm not going to put any more paint on my brush for a moment. I'm just going to keep dipping my brush back into the water just to kind of slowly coat the canvas with the wash. You'll see that how magically that white appears. So I definitely think that you should have fun with how you can do that lettering. I'm gonna darken the color of the red around the edges here. Kind of give it a frame. A little dry brushing technique. Guys are artists. You're doing it. Get some more water. So I go back to the washing of the color onto the canvas. Now that I have some more paint in my brush, you can see now that those numbers are coming right on in, and the letters. If you want to see them more, I just thought it was kind of a cool thing to show you guys how to obtain that effect. You can always go over it in the white marker again once it dries though, or you'll have just like a smeary mess. And it's just popping through here. I'm gonna work on this border over here, making that nice and red. Now I have more paint on my brush, just dumping that back in the water. And you can keep kind of playing in with layering that we did. You can come back in with some more black if you think that your painting needs some more black. Just trying to keep it a little fun and lighter in color. And as you can see, like there's some imperfections on my painting, and it kind of adds interest. Like there's no wrong way to do this. So don't be afraid that, oh no, I didn't do it as exactly like me because I didn't even have a plan on what I was doing when I sat down. I just kind of let things happen, and I'm still doing that. I'm still just letting things happen with the brush, playing around to see what happens when I put the brush down on the canvas. If I like the background, if I want to paint change something, I have that option because it's paint. It's kind of letting my creative process just take over. Really gonna bold that color up here. Those triangles. And remember, you don't have to be triangles. It could be your sorority letters. It could be a word that brings you joy, a name, your name. Maybe you want to paint this and give it to somebody as a gift. Their name. The possibilities are quite endless. I'm just washing the red all around, kind of tie it in together. I'm going to leave this area around his trunk or her trunk just a little open to kind of make that area shine a little bit. I'm going to bring in the red around down here on the bottom. And I'm not worried about, oh, this line needs to match that line. I'm just putting color down. And I want you to do the same. I want you to just kind of start putting paint in your brush and just wiggling the brush onto the bag and not worrying about, oh no, it's not looking right. Because that's really important to just develop your sense of confidence at the canvas here, because it will reflect out in the real world, into life. I'm not worried about messing up. If we walk every day of our lives worried about messing up, I think we would miss out on a lot of the good stuff. Right. Well, this is this part where we kind of take a look and see, like, what's going on here? Do I need to add anything? Do I want to change anything? Maybe I want to take this red color all the way up to the top, and we can do that. I'm gonna get more red. I left the eye white just because I think I want it to stand out. I don't want to dull it down with Blava black paint, but you can color in your eye if you'd like. I'm just gonna grab some more red and do the wash, just kind of up here through where the handles kind of frame, just to kind of make it a little bit more of a piece of art. I'm gonna use the canvas handles as a frame. I'm gonna follow that around. Great, so we got that. Definitely let us know if you need more paint. So I had to reload. You may or may not. I'm dry brushing this paint one right now. And as soon as I got a good layer up here, I'm going to do a little bit of washing with the paint again. This area, you could also write anything up here. I think I'm going to try and write something. Let's see, and park my brush. We'll pull out this marker here. Right in. I wrote the word trunks up here. I don't know if you could see it. Probably not now. But I think you guys have a saying called trunks up. I'm gonna write up here. See, I wrote over the pink. Wrote over the red, and the white marker made it look pink. I'm gonna do some little arrows, maybe. I don't know, some fun. Like, don't be afraid to try different things. Make this your own piece of work. This doesn't have to be a masterpiece ready to hang in a gallery. Sitting down and making time to create is the goal here. And then you have a nice little keepsake or gift. Every piece of art that an artist makes is not going to make it into a gallery. It's about the process and allowing your brain to go there. I'm just going to wash some color over those letters. We'll see them pop up like we did before. Grabbing some more water from my brush. Play with it a little bit. May need to add a little bit more color in. Do that on the outside. And then grab some more water. And now you can see that coming right in. And you see when we added the white over the color, it kind of give a cool effect there. So definitely play around, make this your own piece of art. Carry around. Everyone's gonna ask, where'd you get that bag? And you're like, this is exclusive. I made this bag. Everybody's gonna be fans. Trust me. Right. I think this is wrapping things up here. I hope you enjoyed painting today. I hope you find time in your days ahead to stop the busy life and kind of connect with the canvas and creativity. I had fun painting with you. Yeah, I can't wait to see all of the creations. I hope some way, somehow I can see what you guys created. Take good care. And tag us here. I think that's the way I can see it. On all your social medias.